Howdy folks, Nathan here, and I have something special for you because our friend Roger from Washington just brought up a 1987 Dodge Raider, which is a brother to a Mitsubishi Montero, a vehicle that I had a long time ago and I absolutely adored. But this one is special because he's done a lot to it to make it into a one-man overlanding machine. So Roger, I was hoping you could take us around the vehicle and tell us all the things you've done with it and why you bought it. So you're going to hear an interesting story. First of all, this isn't the first one you had.
No, I had a black one.
Right.
And when I love driving in the snow, that's what I have them for.
Uh-huh.
And I was out helping people on one snowy day in the neighborhood. I parked, got out to help somebody, and another vehicle came around the corner too fast and took the front end of that one out. So this was my parts car.
Now
Everything got moved onto it.
All right, so let's start from the front. We'll just kind of work our way around. It looks like you have a winch here.
Yep.
And this
I used to have a more normal winch, but after backing down a hill once and burning up the little tiny spring that acted as a brake, I just had to get one of the real Warrens with a real brake on it. Never needed the brake since.
Warren winch, and it looks like you have something going on down here too. Is this for towing behind an RV?
It probably was. That was actually there when I bought it. I just left it there as a kind of a crash bar.
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely going to be able to take an impact. Looks like you have updated headlights.
Yeah, I should probably get a light bar, but...
Now, this vehicle does look like it's been used, so, I mean, a little bit of body damage, but it makes it look macho too, right? So tell me about the wheels and tires, because this is where things really get different.
Yeah, so I was able to squeeze in these tires, which are basically 35-inch tires. Yeah, they rubbed a lot until I put an 1 3/8 body lift on it, and now they're pretty good. But I couldn't swing those without the lower differentials that I put in it years ago, which are 529 gearing, so that makes a huge difference.
You said that they were really hard to get your hands on too.
Yeah, I found a guy in Australia that would sell them to me, and of course he was sourcing them in Japan, where they were used on something with a version with a small diesel engine that never made it over to the U.S.
Let's come over to the back, because you did something here too. I believe these had leaf springs in the back, but you got rid of those.
No, only the 4 cylinders had leaf springs. When they went to the V6s, they used a trailing link suspension and coil springs. It's the same that was used on the 4 doors.
I see.
All the 4 doors had it.
So you had a cooler suspension than I did right out of the box, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I had the 4-cylinder with that.
It was only on these Dodge Raiders version for 1 year, 1989, because that was the only year they had the V6 for those.
Right, and the Raider was only in production for a couple of years in the States, right?
I think
was
I sold it for
3 years?
Yeah. I mean, it's just the Montero with different name badges slapped on it, so there's nothing different. The parts are completely interchangeable.
Now, speaking of parts, let's talk about some of the extra parts you put on the inside, because that's where this vehicle gets a little interesting. You wanted a one-man overlanding vehicle, right? I mean, a real one, not just something that's a pretty one that you see over at Overlanding Expo that nobody uses. This is used.
Yes, and you can see that it's crammed.
Yeah. Well, it's not a very big vehicle to begin with.
No, it's not. So I wasn't sure what time of year I was going to be going out, but I threw in, I've got a high lift jack under there, and a shovel, and a small pick, and a water fire extinguisher, which is also my backup water supply if I,
just in case you have an emergency.
Yeah, right.
Right. So all the storage that's underneath this piece of wood here, what is this piece of wood?
So I've got 4 of these 2x12 boards across here, and they're my bed platform, but in case of emergency, they would also be recovery boards.
Okay, so they can go under the wheels. Now, I think what I want to do, if you don't mind, is open up the passenger door and show them how it is actually a bed. Because the one thing that's unique about this vehicle is that you've had to remove seats in order to make it sleepable.
Yeah, I took out the rear completely, and onto here. This actually was lifted out, sort of.
All right.
I could put the seat.
So you still have a passenger seat.
It's still there.
Right. So this lays on top of it, and that way you have enough room to sleep in it. Is it cozy for you, or is it enough room, or not quite enough, or how's that work?
yeah. I don't have any problem. It's I'm not that tall, but it's got an extra 6 inches anyway over the length of the little mattress.
And you built all these components at home?
Yeah.
Ah, very cool. Your plan right now, you came out here, and when we talked before we went on camera, you were saying that your plan was to come out to Colorado, and your timing is utterly perfect. And then you're thinking about going somewhere else. Now, I mentioned Moab, Utah,
yeah.
right? And now is the perfect time to go. And this vehicle is a hell of a setup for Moab because, first of all, with your lift, the suspension setup, and these huge tires, you wouldn't have any problem going through Fins and Things and Hell's Revenge. You have a front locker, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean...
And it's got the factory limited slip, but those are kind of I keep thinking about putting a locker in, but it's just not quite worth it.
Not quite worth it. No, I get you there, and they're just hard to get parts for. They probably have to be ARB or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would imagine. Now I have, and this is my personal thing. Currently, I've gone through 3 different generations of Montero, which is basically what this is.
Yes.
And I have the newest one, I guess, for the United States, which is 2004. And it's a 3rd generation, and it is completely different. So it has...
Not the Sport.
Not the Sport, no,
right.
Limited. Independent suspension, big, heavy V6 engine, 4 doors, 3 rows, and it really is more of a car. This is still a truck. It has a proper solid rear axle, got really good articulation, and these vehicles are really cool. My personal experience is I fit. So you got tons of headroom, right?
Lots of headroom.
Yeah, it's just like a crazy amount of headroom. And I just find that size is utterly perfect with these 2 doors. Have you taken this thing and done some serious off-roading with it?
Yeah, I mean, the main thing I do is snow wheeling. I go up there and generally pull out everybody else. It's the tires, which are snow-rated tires.
Yeah.
Mud tires are never the best in snow.
No.
Some people think they are, and that's one of the problems.
No, you can clearly see the siping and everything else, and the compound that they use on these Geolanders is a totally different one. So this setup right now, I mean, going through the hills that we have here and the snow, you'll have no problem.
And then in deep snow, I'll run them down to, well, I've gone as low as 3 PSI. No bead locks. These haven't come off. The older tires I had at 5 PSI would occasionally come off, but they were old tires. They'd been on and off rims bunches of the times, and I think the beads just weren't quite as good a shape.
Versus these, which are your newer tires, but they're not brand new. So you would run these really down in terms of PSI?
Yeah, I generally go to about 5 PSI when I'm trying to travel deep snow, which is, this kind of snow.
Right.
And of course, I live in Washington State, where we have what some people refer to as cascade concrete for snow, which means that often you can get on top of it with 5 PSI.
Now with the gearing that you have set up, you got a 5-speed manual transmission.
Yep.
You're able to maintain the speed limit up here? Because I mean, it goes up to 75 in Colorado.
I could do 75. I never do. I'm always holding up traffic. My philosophy is I beat the heck out of it on the trails. So when I get it on the highway, I give it a break and I run it at 60. It'll do 75 on the flat. It won't climb a hill at 75.
Now the old one that I had a 4-cylinder engine and had a manual locking hubs, so it really didn't have power. This one has the V6, the 3-liter, and it has auto locking hubs.
Yes.
So I mean, that's a huge difference.
I like the V6 gives it quite a bit more power, but the auto hubs they're a masterpiece of mechanical design. It's a complete mechanical system. No electronics or
no servo or anything. Yeah, that's.
But every time you change directions, whether front going forward to reverse or reverse to forward, they have to unlock and relock. And sometimes they don't. And so the manual hubs are a better bet, but it's hard to come by a set.
Yeah, I bet. Okay, so amazing vehicle. Thank you for bringing it here. Question now is, what are you going to do with it in the future?
Not too much. I mean, it's pretty much in the state that I want it to be in. Well, I take that back. I'm debating whether to resurrect the old black one because it had the air conditioning and the cruise control, and I'm contemplating just swapping the body, taking the body off the frame and swapping them back over. As you can see, the accident wasn't terrible. The black hood survived.
Yeah.
All I have to do is paint that, swap the bodies and paint that fender black. Of course, the black one has a bunch of other body damage too, just like this one does.
Right. Well, I mean, you could say it's used. I mean, there's definitely a couple signs here and there that it's been re-screwed back together, but
yes.
That's the whole point, is that this is a basher for off-roading and bouncing around in snow, and you really have a hell of a setup here. One that I really like because you can sleep in it and you can pretty much go anywhere you want.
Yep.
That's really cool. Well, thank you so much for coming out here.
Thank you.
I really dig this. Guys, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.